New email popped up on my screen on Tuesday morning. Brandon Hartford, that's my brother name, has updated his work experience. I was in the middle of reviewing a client proposal, coffee going cold on my desk, when I made the mistake of clicking it. LinkedIn loaded. And there it was, right at the top of his profile in bold letters. Chief Operating Officer at Harrison and Morrison Consulting. My company. My consulting firm. The one I'd built with Cassie over 6 years from literally nothing. I stared at the screen. Read it again. Checked the company name twice to make sure I wasn't having a stroke. Excited to announce my new role as Chief Operating Officer at Harrison and Morrison Consulting, the post said. Looking forward to bringing my entrepreneurial experience to this growing organization and leading our operations to new heights. Big things coming. 23 likes already. Comments rolling in. Congrats, Brandon. Well deserved. Family business. Love to see it. I hadn't hired him. We hadn't even discussed it. This was news to me. My office door opened. Cassie walked in, saw my face, stopped. What's wrong? I turned my laptop around, showed her the screen. She read it, blinked, read it again. What the heck? That's what I'm wondering. Did your parents... My phone rang before she could finish. Mom. I let it ring twice before answering, buying myself time to figure out what to say. Hi, Mom. Kevin, honey, your father and I need to meet with you today. It's important. Can you come to the office around 2? Not a request, a summons. And she knew I'd seen the LinkedIn post by now. Had to. This was the follow-up call. What's this about? We'll discuss it in person. See you at 2. She hung up before I could respond. Cassie was already typing furiously on her laptop. When did he post this? Looks like 43 minutes ago. So he posted it before even talking to you. Before even having a job here, apparently. If you've spent 32 years watching your older brother fail upward while your parents handed him opportunities like participation trophies, you develop a certain radar for poppycock. And right now, my radar was screaming. Brandon was 35. In those 35 years, he'd started 7 businesses. All 7 had failed spectacularly. There was the food truck that somehow lost money selling tacos at outdoor festivals. Turns out health permits and food safety training aren't just suggestions. The e-commerce store that sold premium phone cases but couldn't figure out shipping, resulting in 3 months of angry customers and 1 memorable Yelp review. I ordered a case. I got a box of packing peanuts and someone's used gym sock. The consulting business, ironically, that lasted 4 months before his only client fired him for missing every single deadline. The crypto investment fund that turned $80,000 of investor money into $3,200 and a pending lawsuit that Dad helped settle. The app development company that never actually developed an app, just a lot of wireframes and vision documents. The real estate wholesaling venture that taught him what breach of contract means. And most recently, the digital marketing agency that he'd shut down 3 months ago after exactly 1 client and 0 successful campaigns. But somehow, every failure was never his fault. The market wasn't ready. His partners let him down. The timing was wrong. Never Brandon. Brandon's ideas were perfect. The world just wasn't prepared for his genius. Meanwhile, I'd spent 6 years building something real with Cassie. We met at a conference in Boston. I was working as a junior consultant at a corporate firm that treated employees like interchangeable parts. She was a senior strategist at a competing firm that was somehow even worse. We started talking during a panel, kept talking through lunch, and by dinner we were sketching out a business plan on cocktail napkins. 6 weeks later, we'd both quit. We had $15,000 between us, 1 small client, and absolutely no safety net. My parents thought I was insane. Dad spent 3 hours trying to talk me out of it. Mom cried. Brandon just shrugged. Sounds risky, little bro. That was 6 years ago. We'd struggled at first. Really struggled. There were months where we weren't sure we could make payroll for our 1 employee, who was also us. But we were good at this. By year 2, we had 5 employees and $800,000 in revenue. By year 4, we were consistently profitable and turning away clients. That's when Mom and Dad approached us about investing. They'd offered $250,000 for 35% equity. We needed capital to hire senior talent and expand. We won't interfere, Mom had promised. We're just investors, silent partners. They'd made their money back 3 times over. Their stake was worth roughly $1.4 million on paper now. We were projecting $4 million in revenue this year. And apparently, they'd decided it was time to cash in that investment by installing Brandon in a position he had absolutely no qualifications for. I looked at Cassie. Conference room, 2 p.m., you and me. I'll be there, but Kevin? She pointed at her screen. We need to talk about something else first. She'd pulled up Mark Chen's profile. Mark, our actual COO. The guy with an MBA from Northwestern and 15 years of experience who'd streamlined our entire delivery process. He just updated his LinkedIn too, Cassie said. 2 minutes ago. Open to new opportunities. My stomach dropped. He knows. Everyone probably knows by now. Brandon tagged our company. Our entire team can see this. I grabbed my phone, opened our company's Slack. Sarah from HR had messaged me directly. Kevin, is this real? Brandon Hartford as COO? Nobody told me we were making this change. 3 other messages from senior team members. All variations of what's happening. This wasn't just my parents forcing Brandon on us. This was a public announcement, made without our knowledge or consent, that was already destabilizing our entire company. Call Richard Morrison, I said. Now. Richard was our business attorney. Expensive, thorough, and the only lawyer I'd ever met who could make complex legal situations sound almost mundane. Cassie had him on the phone in 30 seconds. Richard, we have a situation, I said. Our minority shareholders just announced publicly that my brother is our new COO. We never hired him. We never discussed this. And our actual COO just posted open to new opportunities on LinkedIn because he thinks he's being replaced. Your shareholders being your parents, correct? Who own 35%? Yes. And this brother has what qualifications? 7 failed businesses and a pattern of catastrophic judgment. Richard was quiet for a moment. I could hear him typing. Send me the LinkedIn posts, both of them. And Kevin? Don't go to that meeting at 2 without me. I'll be there. We spent the next 3 hours doing damage control. I called Mark directly. You're not being replaced. I don't know what's happening, but that LinkedIn post is news to me too. Kevin, with all respect, how is your brother announcing he's COO news to you? Isn't your company... Your company? Fair point. My parents are minority shareholders. They're trying to force something. I'm handling it. But I need you to know, you're our COO. That hasn't changed. Until when? Until they force you to fire me and hire him? That's not going to happen. How can you promise that? I couldn't. Not yet. Give me 24 hours, please. Mark was quiet. Then, 24 hours. But Kevin? I've got recruiters calling me twice a week. I stay here because I believe in what we're building. If that changes, it won't. I promise. The conference room smelled like expensive coffee and impending disaster at 2:07 p.m. when Mom and Dad walked in. Brandon wasn't with them, which was either strategic or he'd overslept. Richard Morrison sat to my right, laptop open, looking relaxed in that way that lawyers do when they're about to ruin someone's day. Cassie was to my left, face professionally neutral. Mom sat across from me with that smile. The one she always wore when she was about to tell me something I wouldn't like but was supposed to accept with grace. Dad was beside her, arms crossed. Kevin, before you say anything, Mom started, we want you to know we've thought about this very carefully. You mean Brandon's LinkedIn announcement? I said. The one he posted this morning claiming he's our COO? That carefully thought-out plan? Dad's jaw tightened. We asked him to wait until after this meeting. He got excited. He got excited about a job he doesn't have. Which is why we're here, Mom said. Your father and I think it's time to bring Brandon on board in a leadership capacity. Chief Operating Officer is the natural fit. We already have a COO. Mark could shift to a different role, Dad said. Director of Operations, maybe. Brandon would supervise him. Richard cleared his throat. Before we continue, I need to clarify something. Are you, as 35% minority shareholders, attempting to force a major operational decision on the company against the wishes of the majority shareholders? Dad looked at Richard like he'd just appeared out of thin air. Who are you? Richard Morrison, attorney for Harrison and Morrison Consulting. I'm here to ensure this conversation stays within the bounds of your shareholder agreement. We don't need lawyers for a family discussion, Mom said. You made it a legal discussion when your son publicly announced an employment status that doesn't exist, Richard said pleasantly. That creates liability issues for the company. Brandon is family, Dad said. This is a family business now. We own 35%. That entitles us to have a say. A say, Richard agreed. Not unilateral control, particularly not over hiring decisions, which are explicitly reserved for management discretion in your operating agreement. I watched Dad's face. He hadn't expected resistance. He'd expected me to fold, to accommodate, to put family over business like I'd spent 32 years doing. Kevin, Mom said, her voice softer now. Brandon needs this. He's struggled. He needs an opportunity to prove himself. At the expense of our actual COO, our team, our clients? Mark would understand. He could adapt. Mark is looking for other jobs right now because he thinks we're replacing him. 3 of our senior consultants messaged me asking what's happening. You didn't just suggest Brandon join the company. You announced it publicly before even asking us. You destabilized our entire operation. We knew you'd resist, Dad said. We thought if we showed you we were serious, you'd what? Force my hand? Make it impossible to say no without looking like the bad guy? Silence. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Brandon is not joining this company, not as COO, not as anything. And if you can't accept that, then we have a bigger problem. You can't just dismiss our wishes, Mom said. We're shareholders. You're 35% minority shareholders, Richard said, which means they can actually dismiss your wishes on operational matters, quite legally. Dad stood up. This isn't over. We'll call a board meeting. We'll vote. You'll lose, I said. We control 65%. Then we'll make every meeting hell. We'll vote against every decision. We'll sue for breach of fiduciary duty. On what grounds? Richard asked, genuinely curious. On the grounds that they're putting their egos ahead of family. That's not a legal grounds for anything, Richard said. But it does establish intent to be disruptive, which would support a buyout action. I saw Mom's face change. She understood what Richard was implying before Dad did. Buyout? She said quietly. I pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Inside were documents Richard had prepared in the 3 hours since our call. Notice of buyout exercise, I said. We're purchasing your 35% stake at fair market value, $750,000 based on our most recent independent valuation. Payment in full within 30 days of acceptance. Dad grabbed the papers, started reading. His face went from confused to shocked to red. You can't do this. Actually, he can, Richard said. Section 7.3 of your operating agreement. Either party may trigger a buyout at fair market value with 30 days notice. We're your parents. You're minority shareholders who just attempted to force an unqualified hire through public pressure, Richard said. That's exactly the kind of behavior this clause was designed to address. Mom's eyes were wet. Kevin, please. We were trying to help Brandon. By destroying what Cassie and I built? By driving away our best people? By making us choose between family and the business we've spent 6 years growing? We never asked you to choose. You did. The moment Brandon posted that LinkedIn announcement, you made it impossible for both things to exist. I stood up. You have 30 days to respond. Accept the offer, counteroffer above fair market value, or reject and go to arbitration. Those are your options. We're not selling, Dad said. Then you're choosing arbitration, Richard said, which you'll lose, and you'll pay legal fees on top of that. But that's your choice. They left. Mom didn't look at me. Dad's hands were shaking with rage. After the door closed, Cassie exhaled. That was brutal. It was necessary, Richard said. They've been setting this up for weeks, probably. Brandon posting today wasn't excitement. It was strategy. They were banking on you being too polite, too family-oriented to push back publicly. How do you know? Because I've seen this pattern 100 times. Family businesses, minority shareholders who think ownership percentage equals operational control. They always play the family card when they want something, and the business card when they want to force it. I looked at the closed door. They're going to fight this. Probably, but they'll lose. The valuation is fair. The buyout clause is ironclad. And they just demonstrated the exact disruptive behavior that justifies forcing them out. What about Brandon's LinkedIn post? Cassie asked. Can we make him take it down? Send a cease and desist letter, Richard said. Company letterhead, demanding he remove the false employment claim within 24 hours or face potential legal action for misrepresentation. That'll piss them off even more. They're already pissed off. Might as well be accurate while we're at it. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at my phone. 42 unread messages. Most from family members I hadn't talked to in months, all suddenly very concerned about family unity. My phone rang. Tyler, Mom's brother. I answered. Your parents called me crying, Uncle Tyler said. Said you're trying to steal their investment. I'm buying them out at fair market value after they tried to force an unqualified hire on my company. Brandon's your brother. And this is my business. Those aren't the same thing. Family should come first. They made me choose. I chose the thing I built instead of the thing they're trying to destroy. He hung up on me. 3 minutes later, another call. Aunt Linda. Then Grandma. Then Tyler's wife Jessica. All the same script. Family matters. Brandon deserves a chance. I'm being cruel. Mom is devastated. I stopped answering. Blocked half of them. Let the rest go to voicemail. Cassie called around 10 p.m. You okay? No, you? Mark just texted me, wants to know if he should start interviewing. What did you tell him? That we're handling it. But Kevin, if we lose Mark, we lose half the senior team. They're loyal to him. We won't lose him. I promised him 24 hours. Tomorrow morning, we're going to show him exactly what we're doing to protect this company. And if your parents don't accept the buyout, then we fight, but we win. Because the alternative is watching everything we built fall apart. We hung up. I sat there in the dark, thinking about 6 years of work. 16-hour days, client pitches, late-night strategy sessions, the first employee we hired, the first big contract we landed. All of it now balanced on whether my parents could accept that their investment didn't come with control. My phone buzzed. Text from Brandon. Bro, what the hell? Dad says you're kicking them out? I thought we were going to work together. I typed back, take down the LinkedIn post. You don't work here. Mom and Dad said it was happening. They were wrong. You're not COO. You've never been COO. Update your LinkedIn before our lawyers do it for you. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, whatever, man. This place probably sucks anyway. I blocked his number. The next morning, Mark was waiting in my office at 7 a.m. 24 hours, he said. Time's up. What's happening? I showed him the buyout documents, explained the situation, Brandon's LinkedIn post, the attempted force, Richard's involvement, the 30-day clock now ticking. Mark read through everything. You're serious about this? Completely. You're our COO. That position isn't changing. We're not letting our minority shareholders destabilize what we've built. And if they refuse the buyout? They'll lose in arbitration. The offer is more than fair. They tripled their investment in 2 years. Most investors would be thrilled. Mark was quiet for a long moment. How much is this going to cost you? $750,000, maybe $800,000 if they negotiate up slightly. That's a lot of money to get rid of your parents. It's a lot of money to protect our team and our clients. I looked at him directly. You've built something special here. Our operations are better because of you. I'm not throwing that away because my brother failed at 7 businesses and needs another participation trophy. Mark smiled slightly. Participation trophy? It's been his whole life. Okay. Mark closed the laptop. I'll stay. But I need you to promise me something. What? No more family members, ever. No cousins, no nephews, nobody. I don't care if they're qualified. Family and business don't mix. Deal. We shook hands. 16 days later, their lawyer called Richard. They wanted to negotiate. They want $900,000, Richard told me, claiming the company's growth trajectory justifies a higher valuation. That's not how this works. I know, but they're emotional. They're hoping you'll cave because they're family. What did you tell them? That we'd consider it if they provided an independent valuation supporting that price. They have 5 days. 5 days later, no valuation. Just another call from their lawyer. They'll accept $800,000, final offer. But they want Brandon considered for a different position, something entry-level. No, I said immediately. Not negotiable. $800,000 for their shares. Brandon gets nothing. That's the deal. Richard relayed the message. 24 hours later. They've accepted. The closing happened 3 weeks after Brandon's LinkedIn post. Neutral attorney's office. Professional. Cold. Clean. We sat across from each other. Mom's eyes were red. Dad wouldn't look at me. Stock purchase agreement. Transfer of ownership. Wire transfer confirmation showing $800,000 moving from our business account to theirs. Any questions? The closing attorney asked. Dad shook his head. Mom stared at the table. We signed. Every signature felt like a door slamming shut. That completes the transaction, the attorney said. Kevin Hartford and Cassie Morrison now own 100% of Harrison and Morrison Consulting. The previous shareholders are released from all rights and obligations. Mom stood immediately, grabbed her copies. Dad followed slower, paused at the door, looked back. I hope it was worth it, he said quietly. Protecting what I built? Yeah, it was. They left. Richard collected his documents. That went smoother than expected. Doesn't feel smooth. Family never does. But you did the right thing. Give it time. 2 months of silence followed the buyout. No calls from my parents, no texts from Brandon. Then, on a Monday morning in month 3, Jenny from reception called my office. Kevin, your brother is here. Says he's starting today. I looked at Cassie. She looked at me. Brandon's here, I said. In person? Yeah. He's asking about his office. Says he's the new COO. I'd forgotten about the LinkedIn post. Forgotten that Brandon had never actually been told, in person, that he wasn't working here. We'd bought out our parents, sent legal letters, but Brandon himself had just gone quiet. Apparently, that silence meant something different to him than it meant to us. Tell him I'll be right there, I said. And Jenny? Do exactly what we discussed. Remember the packet we prepared? The facilities maintenance one? That's the one. 3 months ago, right after the buyout closed, Cassie and I had prepared for this possibility. We'd created an employee information packet, official company letterhead, job description, reporting structure, everything professional and legitimate, just not for Chief Operating Officer. I walked to reception slowly, gave Brandon time to get comfortable. Through the glass wall, I could see him. Designer suit, expensive briefcase, confident smile, the smile of someone who thought he'd won. Jenny was at her desk, typing, professional as always. Brandon turned when I approached. Hey Kev, ready to get started. Where's my office? Brandon, what are you doing here? Starting my job. I know there was some confusion with the buyout, but Mom said you'd worked it out. She said I should come in, get settled, meet the team. Mom said that. Yeah, last week. Said give it a couple months for things to calm down, then come in. He looked around the office. Place looks great, really professional. I'm excited to help you guys scale. I looked at Jenny. She had the folder ready. Brandon, Jenny's going to get you set up with your employee information. Have you fill out some paperwork? Cool, cool. Then the office tour? Sure. Jenny stood up, smiled professionally. Mr. Hartford, welcome. I just need you to complete some standard new employee paperwork. Tax forms, direct deposit, employee handbook acknowledgement. She pulled out the folder, slid it across the desk. And here's your employee information packet with your job description, reporting structure, and facility access details. Brandon took it without looking. Perfect. How long will this take? I want to meet with the senior team this afternoon. Start getting up to speed on operations. Actually, Jenny said, if you could review that packet first, there's important information about your position. Something in her tone made him pause. He opened the folder. I watched his face. Confidence. Then confusion. His eyebrows drew together. He started reading more carefully. Confusion became shock. Shock became red. Red became purple. What the hell is this? Your employment packet, Jenny said calmly. This says I'm a janitor. A few nearby employees looked up. Jenny's voice stayed professional. Facilities maintenance specialist, sir. That's your position. This is a joke. This has to be a joke. I assure you, everything in that packet is accurate according to our HR system. Brandon looked at me. Kevin, tell her there's been a mistake. There hasn't been a mistake. I am certainly not a janitor. Then you're not an employee here. Those are your options. Accept the facilities maintenance position at $15 per hour or leave. You're serious. Completely. He stood there, breathing hard, still holding the packet. Mom said you'd work this out. She said, Mom doesn't work here. Dad doesn't work here. They're not shareholders. They have zero authority over hiring decisions. They haven't had authority for 3 months. But I'm your brother. And this is my company. If you want to work here, we have an opening in facilities maintenance. It's honest work. Good benefits after 90 days. Otherwise, you need to leave. Brandon looked around the office, at the employees pretending not to watch, at Jenny's professionally neutral face, at the packet in his hands that said, Facilities Maintenance Specialist, 15 more hour. You're an asshole, he finally said. Maybe. But I'm an asshole with a successful company. You're just someone who showed up expecting a job they were never offered. He threw the packet on Jenny's desk. Papers scattered. Mom and Dad are going to hear about this. They already know. They've known for 3 months. They just didn't tell you. That hit him. The realization that our parents had let him believe he still had a shot, had let him show up here, had let him walk into this humiliation. He left without another word. Through the glass doors, across the lobby, gone. The office stayed quiet for about 10 seconds. Then someone started a slow clap. Then another. Then the whole office was clapping. Jenny picked up the scattered papers, put them back in the folder, filed it away. That was the most fun I've had at work in 6 years, she said. That night, Cassie and I went to the dive bar 2 blocks from the office. The one where we'd celebrated our first $100,000 contract by getting drunk on cheap whiskey and making grandiose plans. We're free, she said. We're $800,000 poorer. We'll make it back in 18 months, maybe sooner. She pulled out her phone, showed me Brandon's LinkedIn. Still said Chief Operating Officer for another 6 hours before finally changing to Consultant, available for strategic partnerships. He doesn't know when to quit, she said. He never has. 2 months of silence followed. No calls from my parents, no texts, no family ambushes at holidays. Just quiet. And productivity. Without parents on the board, decisions that used to take 3 meetings took 1 conversation. We could move fast, trust our judgment, take calculated risks. We landed 2 new Fortune 500 clients in month 3. Combined annual contract value of $780,000. Mark restructured our entire project delivery system, cutting timelines by another 15%. Client satisfaction scores went up. Retention went up. By month 5, we needed a bigger office. Moved to a 10,000 square foot space on the 14th floor downtown. 3 conference rooms. Room for 20 more employees. The day we signed the new lease, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Kevin, it's Melissa Chen from Innovex. We met at the conference last year. Tyler Chen, our CTO, mentioned you did excellent work for Morrison Industries. We're looking for strategic consulting support for a major digital transformation initiative. 3-year engagement. Could be substantial. Interested? Very interested. Great. I'll send over details. Fair warning, this would be our largest consulting contract to date, around $1.9 million annually. But we need someone who can handle complex stakeholder management and isn't afraid to challenge executives when they're wrong. Tyler said you had that skill set. $1.9 million annually, for 3 years, $5.7 million total. I scheduled the meeting for the following Tuesday. We spent 4 hours in their conference room. They laid out needs. We proposed solutions. They asked smart questions. We gave smart answers. At the end, Tyler Chen stood up, shook my hand. We'll have a decision by Friday, but between us, you're our first choice. Friday afternoon, the contract arrived. Everything they'd promised, plus performance bonuses. Cassie and I sat in my office looking at the signed agreement. Your parents' 35% stake would be worth $1.8 million right now, she said. They sold for $800,000. They lost $1 million by forcing the Brandon issue. They made their choice. Do you ever regret it? The buyout? I thought about it. Really thought about it. The family dinners I'd never attend. The relationships now permanently broken. The bridge burned so thoroughly there wasn't even ash left. No, I said. They chose Brandon over good judgment. I chose the business over family politics. We both got what we prioritized. Month 8, I got a LinkedIn message. From Brandon. Hey Kev, so I'm starting a new consulting venture. ClearPath Innovations, strategic transformation for emerging markets. Was wondering if you'd be open to referring clients who might not be a fit for your firm? Partnership opportunity? Let's grab coffee. I deleted it without responding. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Dad. I almost didn't answer. Then curiosity won. Kevin, it's Dad. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but Brandon asked me to reach out. He's starting a new consulting business. Wondering if you might consider some kind of partnership arrangement. Referrals, shared clients, that sort of thing. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Brandon wants me to help him compete with my own company? It wouldn't be competing. Different markets, different approaches. Dad, I'm going to say this once. No. I'm not advising Brandon. I'm not partnering with Brandon. I'm not referring clients to Brandon. He's on his own, like I was. He's really trying this time. He's really trying every time. The difference is I stopped caring whether he succeeds or fails. That's your problem, not mine. So we just never talk again? You're just done with all of us? I'm done being the backup plan, the safety net, the person you call when Brandon needs something. If you want a relationship with me that isn't about using me to help him, maybe we can talk someday. But not today. Silence. Then, your mother misses you. That hit different. I miss her too sometimes. But missing someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. We never meant to hurt you. That somehow makes it worse. You hurt me accidentally without even noticing because I mattered so little that you couldn't be bothered to pay attention. He hung up without saying goodbye. Month 10, something strange happened. A letter arrived at the office. Handwritten. Mom's writing. I sat in my car in the parking garage, staring at the envelope, debating whether to open it. Finally did. Kevin, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I need you to know I understand now what you were protecting. I've watched Brandon for 8 months. Really watched him. Without excuses. Without pretending. He's already talking about his new consulting firm like it's the next big thing. But he hasn't signed a single client. Hasn't filed incorporation papers. Hasn't done anything except design a logo and print business cards. Your father still makes excuses. But I can't anymore. I see what you saw. What Cassie saw. What everyone except us apparently saw. You built something real. We tried to tear it down for someone who's never built anything that lasted. That was wrong. I was wrong. I don't know if we can fix this. Maybe we can't. But I wanted you to know I finally see it. The funny part? The tragic part? We could have just been proud of you. That's all you ever wanted. And we couldn't even do that right. I'm sorry. Mom. I read it twice. Felt something complicated. Not quite forgiveness. Not quite closure. Something in between. But I didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because right now things were good. The business was thriving. The team was happy. Cassie and I were building something bigger than either of us had imagined, and I didn't need their approval anymore. I had something better. I had proof. Month 11, I found out how Brandon's LinkedIn post had happened. Complete accident. One of our clients, a woman named Patricia, who ran a small tech startup, mentioned it during a coffee meeting. "I almost hired your brother, you know," she said casually. "Back in January. Saw his post about being COO at your firm. Thought it would be smart to work with someone from your team." My chest went cold. "You almost hired Brandon?" "Yeah. Reached out to him. We had a call. But then I mentioned it to Tyler Chen at a networking event. I knew you'd done work for Innovex, and he said, 'Kevin's brother? No way he works there. Kevin and Cassie own 100% of that company.'" I checked again. Brandon had quietly updated his LinkedIn by then, changed it to consultant. "Did you mention this to Tyler?" "That's actually why Tyler called you about the Innovex contract. He said anyone who handles family drama that professionally probably handles business drama even better." She laughed. Guess he was right. So the $5.7 million contract, the biggest deal we'd ever landed, came directly from how I'd handled Brandon's LinkedIn stunt. From choosing business over family, from having boundaries. I called Cassie immediately, told her the whole story. "So Brandon's incompetence directly led to our biggest contract," she said. "That's poetic. That's accidental, but I'll take it." "You going to tell your parents?" "No. They don't get to know about our wins anymore. They chose not to be part of this." Month 12. 1 year after Brandon's LinkedIn post that started everything. We'd grown from $4 million to $7.2 million in annual revenue, expanded from 32 to 45 employees, moved to a new office, landed clients we'd only dreamed about a year ago. All of it without parents on the board, without Brandon anywhere near operations, without family drama destabilizing the team. I stood at the window of our new conference room, looking out at the city when Cassie walked in. "Mark wants to talk to you," she said. "He has news." Mark came in 5 minutes later, smiling. Northwestern's business school asked me to guest lecture next month about building operational systems in high-growth consulting firms. They specifically mentioned Harrison and Morrison as a case study in sustainable scaling. "That's amazing. You should do it." "I am." "But Kevin?" "They asked if you'd co-present. Talk about the leadership philosophy that made it possible." "What did you tell them?" "That I'd ask. But honestly, I think you should. You built something special here. Not by following family expectations or taking the easy path, but by having the guts to protect what mattered." After he left, I sat there thinking about what he'd said. Leadership philosophy, protection, boundaries. A year ago, my parents had tried to force Brandon into a COO role. I'd said no. They'd pushed back. I'd bought them out. Everyone said I'd regret it. That family was more important than business. That I'd destroyed relationships over pride. But sitting here now, in an office we'd earned, with a team that trusted us, with clients who valued our work, I didn't regret anything. The conference room would smell like expensive coffee tomorrow. There would be another client meeting, another decision to make, another chance to prove, not to them, but to myself, that I'd chosen right. That the business I'd protected was worth protecting. That the boundaries I'd set were worth setting. My phone sat on the desk, Mom's letter saved in my photos. I'd read it probably 50 times in the past 2 months. Each time I thought about responding. But not yet. Maybe someday. Maybe never. Because right now I had work to do. Work that mattered. Work that was mine. And that was enough.